Hello, all. Hi, Angela. Good to see you. Give people a minute here. Show you around the Place de la Bastille. We were here 2 weeks ago. We're back again, but we're just going to start here and then take off from here. Hi, Sharon. It really has changed. It's so much nicer now than the last 2 years. I think this all finished in 2021, late 2021. And it's really great. There's so much space because right here, you would have been, it would have been in the middle of the road. So it's really nice and it stretches all the way over to that side where the skateboarders are. Hey, Chrissy. And I got here about a half hour early and walked over to the other side to get a picture down of the canal. And I saw didn't look like it was a rat that died that looked like he was trying to get into the garbage can. I jumped and almost screamed, but he was long gone. But still. I don't even like them if they're dead. Hi, Jean. Got the opera house over here. So a lot of people call the Palais Garnier the Opera Garnier, but it's the Palais Garnier, the beautiful one that's there over at the top of the Avenue de l'Opéra, and that only does ballet. And so if you want to come see opera or ballet, they do both of those things here. Um, but you can come here if you want to see the opera. But it's the new building. So I have not been inside of that, but it's hard to top the Palais Garnier. It's such a beautiful building. And there at the end of that, if you could see way down there, that is where they do the immersion, where they do the Muka exhibit right now, where you go in there, kind of like that Van Gogh thing that's been touring around the U.S. This is where it is. So if you're coming to Paris to see that, that is where it is. So we'll go ahead and get started because we are going to be cruising down the Rue Saint Antoine and Rue de Rivoli after this. But we are here again at the Place de la Bastille because I wanted to talk today about the three glorious days, which was, as you look at the column, the 27th, 28th, and 29th of July, 1830. And what's also significant about that is because this is what Delacroix painted about. So I wanted to come back here because then this is what the column is. So a lot of people think that this is for the revolution, and it is for the revolution, but it's just not the one that everybody thinks it is. Everybody thinks it's the 1790s when everything exploded here in Paris and the death of the king and queen, but it wasn't. So this is 3 days, and I'll tell you some more about what that was as we start walking. But the column here is really cool. But look at what I found because I got here so early walking around. So they put these little icons in. And if you remember from 2 weeks ago, do you know why that's significant? Because Napoleon wanted to actually put an elephant here. So I had lots of time when I got here walking around and saw that. I was very happy to see that. But the column here itself, after the events of 1830, and the next year on July 6, 1831, they decided they were going to build a funerary monument to that revolution insurrection. And so this actually, because I can't talk. You might have heard me say funerary because it is in fact a mausoleum as well. So it was created, the very first stone was laid on July 27th, 1831, which is again at the end of 1 year anniversary by Louis Philippe the first. And I'll tell you a little bit about him and his role in this whole thing. But from 1835 to 1840, they worked on this. And it was on July 28th, 1840, that they inaugurated it. And when they inaugurated it, they also interred 504 people here. So there's 504 uh, tombs underneath here, or bodies underneath here, plus a few extra, because when they did that, they also had some mummies that had been brought back from Egypt by Napoleon that were buried in the garden alongside of the Musée du Louvre, because all of my roads lead to the Louvre and Delacroix. And so they needed a place for them. So this is where they stuck them. They put them here underneath. So we did a podcast episodes coming out tomorrow about this. And I had said that I have this thing about when I go to cemeteries, I don't ever like to step like on the grave or in front of it because I feel like I'm walking on somebody. So basically right now I'm walking on people because they're all buried underneath us because there was all this space underneath here when they built this. And if you remember from 2 weeks ago, that base there was actually built for the elephant. So the whole bottom base there was done for the elephant in 1804. And then they started building it from there. So the first is red marble, which is kind of hard to see that it's really red. But there's red marble there, and then there's a white marble. And on around there, there's medallions. They have all sorts of significance. There's even a Medusa on there. You've got the scales for justice. You have the French Republic emblem there on the side. And then you go up and you, of course, have the days, the 27th, 28th, the 29th. And then on the next little plateau there, you see the roosters on the side. Those are all done by Antoine Barry. And Barry was the one that was good friends with our guy Delacroix. And they would go to the Jardin des Plantes and study animals, sketching them, and why he was so amazing when it came to doing sculptures of animals. And on the very front, you see, well, down here on this lower base, you see there's all of those lions. And the lions there are because this is the July column. And what's the astrological symbol for part of July? Leo, which is what we are in right now. So you see here, there's a big plaque there, and it says, for the glory of the citizens of France who took up arms to combat for the defense of the Republican liberties. And this is a memorial to those days of the 27th, 28th, and 29th of July, 1830. Get a better view of the roosters there. But on that, here we go back and stand a little farther so you can see. Up around the barrel of the column is four bands, but those four bands separate are significant because it is in three sections. And on those three sections are the 504 names. They did add names and after 1871 when they had the next little issue, or I'm sorry, 1848. And then again in 1871 after the commune, they added a few other names on there. But at the very top, it is topped with the genie, the golden genie, that's done by Auguste Dumont. And if you go into the Louvre, you can see a bronze copy of that is there. So you can see it up a little closer. But when they restored this, they were working on it in 2016 when I first came to Paris. And I was so sad because the whole thing was covered up. But then later when they unveiled it, it was all bright and gold and beautiful. But it's pretty amazing. You can see pretty clearly all of the names up there as well. And they're all people that died in that revolution of those 3 days. So it's pretty cool. And of course, there was the story I told you 2 weeks ago about the two lovers up there kissing. But the artist, JR, not that long ago, just a couple, maybe a year or two ago, did a whole thing where he is the one that takes the photo images of faces, and sometimes it's just eyes, etc. And he did a ton of pictures. Maybe it was more like 2021, 22, but of healthcare workers. And then they put all of those onto the opera back there into all those little squares. It was completely covered. And so he had all of these great images of being at the top of it. You cannot go up there now. They don't allow. There's not even a special day that they let us go up there. But it would be pretty cool. It is a really beautiful monument. And now you know that it's not about the revolution of the 18th century. Much like my man Delacroix painting gets widely used, saying that it is also of that revolution, that you know better. Look how pretty the gate here is. You can at times go inside and go downstairs. They sometimes offer that through the monuments, but it's kind of infrequent. So it has been October here in Paris. While everybody else around the world is cooking, we in Paris are not. It's like 74 degrees today, a little bit muggy, but it's pretty great because it's not too bad at all. And yesterday in the afternoon, we had a ton of rain, and the day before that, it rained all day. Or maybe I think that was Friday. It rained all day. It was pretty gross, but we'll take it. I'll take that over it being 90 degrees any day. So we're gonna head on down to the Rue Saint Antoine and up to, and then which turns into the Rue de Rivoli because we're heading to one specific little spot. You remember those markers I told you about that outline the old Bastille prison? So here's some right here. Somebody maybe broke one. We just can't have anything nice these days. Somebody is. We're gonna see how fast we get cruise down here. So the Three Glorious Days started because the king at that time, Charles X was also a brother of Louis the 16th. Oh, Gene, I'm sorry. We have like for the next 10 days, we have days that are even like 68, 69 degrees. We don't have a day over, I think our warmest day this week's going to be like 76. And I think maybe that's Wednesday. And then it shows rain on every day. So I could do without the rain, but I'm also okay that it's not 90 degrees here because that is not good. There's our Bon Marché that we saw 2 weeks ago. But as I was saying, Charles X. So Charles X, his brother, Louis the 16th, his older brother, Louis the 18th, took the throne first after Napoleon Bonaparte, and then came Charles X. And so Charles X decided on March 2nd, 1830, that at a very forceful speech that he made to the deputies, he said, threatened them. They weren't very happy about it, so they came back and with all of these demands on him. And then he decided to come back with that and say that he was going to get rid of them. He was going to just completely dissolve the Chamber of Deputies. And so on July 25th, he actually stated, and he stated four different things that he was going to do. And one of them was to eliminate them. Here is a, I think I showed you, I think I showed you from afar this church the other day. But this is the church that is not very easy to get into. It's not really open to the public. It's only really open when you go to Mass or on that special weekend in September. But this church is where, down below in the crypt, is where Nicolas Fouquet is buried. And Nicolas Fouquet, I think I told you 2 weeks ago, he is the one that outshone the Sun King. It's actually a book called that, The Man That Outshone the Sun King. And he created Voli Vicomte and then invited Louis the 14th and his thousands of friends. And then Colbert decided to say, where do you think you got all this money to do this big party? I bet he's stealing it from you. So Louis had him arrested and he spent time in the Bastille. But he died in Italy in prison. And they brought him back because his whole family is actually buried in that church. And so I went, I think it was last year on Patron One, and it was because they were going to take you to the crypt. And they didn't take me all the way to the bottom. And so I asked some people and I emailed them, and they said, no dice, can't get in there. So I'll do it again someday, somehow. But it's not open very frequently, and it's not really very good to go into those places during church if you want to take photos. It's a little rude, I feel. So back to Charles. So Charles X, he on the July 25th said he's going to do four things, including dissolve the deputies. He was going to call for a new election. He was also going to strip back some of the civil code. And the fourth thing was that he was going to censor the press. And on these were printed on July 26th. These are pretty as flowers are. And on July 26th, this was printed. Everybody saw this, and of course, the journalists and the press were outraged, and we said they were going to gather everybody together and just stand up against this. So the next day, on July 27th, they showed up to 50 different locations with the intent of stealing and taking out all of the printing presses. And so they screamed and yelled and blocked their doors and wouldn't let them in. People were being arrested. And then because they outnumbered the police greatly, the police backed down. Here's the Hotel du Soleil, which is not a place you could really go to, except for that is where there is a fantastic bookstore. The Monuments of Paris headquarters is there, and they also have a bookstore, and it's really, really great. It has very strange hours. It's only open in the afternoons, a few days a week, but it's a great place to go to get research books, pretty much all in French. Look at the side of the building, it's interesting. It's very interesting there. Definitely used to didn't be a side. It used to be a building there. They're blocking it. So when they all got together, they gathered all over. They gathered at the Place de la Bastille. They gathered at the Place des Vosges, the Hotel de Ville, and in front of Notre Dame. And along the way, they tried to gather up everybody they possibly could to come with them to stand up against this. And so it's the biggest day of the 3 days was July 28th. And July 28th was the day that my man Delacroix immortalized. And I even have a visual aid when we get to our stop to show you. I hope Byron and Juan are watching since I'm in their neighborhood again. Next week, it's a few days before the anniversary of my favorite place. So next Sunday, we're going to share some of my favorite place. The watermelon is out now, and it is delicious. And figs are starting to come out, but it's still a little early for the juiciest of figs. But since the rest of Europe has been warm, and the south of France is very warm, it's just here. And now it is vacation time. So I just saw the owners of a restaurant by me when I was on my way here today. They were just coming back from vacation. So now you've got everybody else. It's the August vacationers getting ready to head out. Here's one of those fake monstrosities across the way. We don't need to give them any more press. And I'm sorry some of you guys are dealing with such hot, muggy days. It's quite busy over here. The city's gotten really quiet. They said that more people left the city because Bastille Day, 14 Juillet, was on a Friday. So a lot of people, some people are gone from mid-July to mid-August, and some are gone for 6 weeks. So a bunch of the restaurants will start closing here pretty soon. A few of my favorites closed. I hope it's not going to rain on us. It has actually said the last 2 days when it's been raining all day, it hasn't called for rain at all in the forecast. So that's a good thing to remember when you come here. Don't really ever trust the iPhone because even if it says rain, sometimes it doesn't. And then sometimes it says it's sunny and it's torrential downpours. This little store theme is a great store to get some fun little things when you're here. They have lots of seasonal stuff in there as well. I'm going to take a little step off Rue de Rivoli, go down Rue Francois Miron. I'll come up behind the back. I've never seen so many people advertise that they have air conditioning like they are now in Paris on the outside of their restaurants. Cute little fabric store. Angela, you're going to be here, what, 65 days? Soon. Very soon. Not long. And hopefully it's not warmer then than it is now. Yeah, but what I would always do, Angela, is I would have my little chalkboard I hung above my desk, and every morning I changed the number, counting down. And I always got so excited when I got to change the first digit. So I went to 50s and 40s. And then once I got to 30s, then I was like, all right. And then single digits, that was the best. I'm happy I don't have to do that anymore. Or I don't have to think about leaving. That's a beautiful boulangerie here and a little restaurant next to it. They also have really great quiche. I sat there one day and had quiche and a salmon. So the painting I'll share a little bit about when we get stopped is, of course, my favorite Delacroix. This is an amazing place to come to. That book right there is one that I've talked about. Oh, what's that one? I don't think I have that one. Um, this is a really cool store, the Paris Historique. But if you go in there and you kind of get somebody on a good day, they'll take you down to the basement. And it's the medieval arches. It's pretty, no money, no honey. Here's a little, if you need a little knick-knack of, my grandma would have loved that. And then we have, of course, one of the oldest buildings in Paris, but not the oldest. And they used to have a sex club downstairs. On the door, it was, they might still because it looks a little, now it's a great restaurant. But for a while there was a different kind of sign on it. One of these gifty things. I think this place is La Perla is very adorable. Look how cute it is from the outside. I rarely come this way. There's a Pantheon up there. Very top of the Pantheon. I am, for a few weeks, cat sitting and plant sitting. I hope the plants survive. But at my friend's place, I'm not staying there, but where he has an amazing view. I will post some pictures of it. But off of the balcony, when I'm watering the plants, I get to look at the top of Notre Dame and I can see the roof and I can see how the scaffolding is going up. So there was something on the news the other day. I think that's Notre Dame's on the news here just about every other day, and which is great because there's so much stuff going on. But they are going to be dropping in the final piece of the spire here in the next month, and the spire will be completely it will be completely done, not covered, but the actual structure of it up here, and they'll start to cover it by the end of this year, which is exciting. But as the spire goes up, the scaffolding is going to go up around it. So we won't be able to see it, but as we see the scaffolding go up, and when I looked this today, and I took a picture of it, you could definitely see that the scaffolding is getting higher, which is so exciting. And they've been dropping in the pieces for the structure of the roof. And there's a barge that was parked there a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was just a week or two ago, and has those pieces in as well. So it's really, really exciting. Yes, if we need some radiation, the city of Paris is going to help us. They have actually increased patrolling on the streets because there's so many tourists right now. So they've actually been adding people to help with just to be present, especially in the touristic areas where the pickpockets love to be. But I took a little video the other day because the lovely city workers were cutting off those horrific love locks that they put across from the Musée d'Orsay. And that also takes city money that they are paying. And these things aren't easy. I watched them for a while. They just saw through them, and then they're trying to cut through them and bend them to get them off, and then the disposal of them. So the same people that come and get upset that they don't think Paris is doing anything about pickpockets, or they put it back on the fact that the city needs to stop the people selling the locks, which doesn't really help for majority of the people that bring them with them and put them on. Maybe we could not spend the money on removing those. That's just my public statement. There she is. So we're going to go to the other side, the Hotel de Ville, and then I'll sit down and bring out my visual aid. We have some more Lions by Barry, who also did the roosters back there. I love this building. This is definitely a building, if you're coming in September for that weekend, you definitely come and see. The guy there, Talma, he was an actor. You can see that because you see a mask down below. Talma was a huge actor at the Comédie Française, and he was one of the favorites of Napoleon. Oh, is the garden open? Ooh, I get excited. Jeez. Gros. He was also he was an artist. He painted some pretty monumental paintings of Mr. Napoleon Despereaux. He was also an artist. So look, we can walk through here. Hopefully we get out on the other side. Madame Geoffrin, I'm not sure who she is. I better look that up. There's Alfred Musset. He was a poet and a writer, and he was involved with George Sand. And George Sand kind of painted him to be this crazy guy, but he actually was this incredibly amazing writer. So this is this little garden that was created for, get our potatoes on, for the uh, combatants from Spain that jumped up and helped in the revolution and the resistance. Oh, how pretty. Look at all the pretty roses. Oh, look at those. Those are like the peony ones. The mayor of Paris, her office is up there to the left. We also have Joussin over here. I know, I love this little garden, Angela, and it's every time I think we've done a walk near here, it has not been open. Oh, wait, we gotta go down here a little bit. Etienne, first mayor of Paris that was brutally killed. Gotta come down here and share one of my girls. And above her, so right there, we have Elizabeth Vigée Lebrun, amazing artist. And above her, Alexander Lenoir. Alexander Lenoir is a gentleman that saved the monuments. He saved all of those tombs that were up at Saint Denis and a bunch of the different monuments of France that he gathered together, created the first monuments of France museum that is now at the what is the École des Beaux-Arts. And then it was Mr. Viollet-le-Duc that created the architecture museum that is at the Trocadero now. And of course, we have Mrs. Joussin right here. They usually used to have chickens in here. The first time I saw it, it scared the living daylights out of me. Something was moving. Madame de Sévigné. We could do a whole walk and I'll tell you about who everybody is. But there's 288 statues on here, so we might not have that much time. But that's Madame de Sévigné. She was a woman of letters. She's the one that documented everything going on in France and under the court of Louis XIV, and also the trial of Nicolas Fouquet. Madame Roland. Yes, there were little rabbits in here too, but I don't see any of those. I haven't seen any since last summer. So 1 year, it's a little less than 1 year now to the Olympics. It was a 1 year on the 25th, I believe. So here, the Hotel de Ville, because it was here on July 28th, 1830, that they all gathered. This at the time was called Place de Grève, but they gathered up here, and this is where they built a barricade. And Monsieur Delacroix was over around here. He was living at that time. He had a studio at number 17 Quai Voltaire, which is not very far from here, just past the Institut de France. And he came over here and he saw this and he went home and he knew that he had to paint something. 10 years before that, he saw his buddy Jerry Coe do his amazing painting, The Raft of the Medusa. And he also wanted to do something that was this monumental history piece. And so that was his idea, that he was going to do something. He said in a letter to his brother, if I can't fight for my country, then I'll paint for it. And so that's exactly what he did. So he created the amazing piece that is Liberty Guiding the People, 28th of July, 1830. And look, I have it with me today. Look at that. I bought it at the gift shop. Surprisingly, I didn't have one. But look, you can see here, right where my thumb is Notre Dame. So we're basically standing in the spot right here where this whole thing happened. And so they built a huge barricade. Back then, the cobblestones of the city were just sitting on the sand. And in 1968, May 1968, when they had the huge uprising from the students at the university, they said that underneath the stones lies the beach because they were just sitting there. And that's when they decided to actually affix these so they stayed in the ground, because they're pretty good. They're what, 5 by 5 inches and square and very heavy. I would not want one of those coming towards me. But they took everything that they could to build these barricades, including wood and chairs and everything they broke. And you can see here in that, you can see where she's standing on it. And so when he painted this, he did this. He started doing sketches in September of that year, 1830, and then he started doing the actual painting in December of that year. So you can go into the Musée Delacroix and see one of the sketches of this amazing painting. And in it, it's all done in kind of, it almost looks more watercolored. It's like light blues and grays. And in that one, her flag is going the other direction. So it's kind of over behind her left shoulder. But he painted this and he used specifically just the three main colors. He did it. There's lots of browns and black in there, but the only colors you see are, of course, bleu, blanc, rouge. So that's keeping with, of course, because it is goes with the flag. And what's significant about this revolution, as opposed to any of the revolutions that came before it, was this was a revolution that it was everybody against the king. In the past, the revolutions were mostly the poor against the rich and the monarchy, and this time they all got together. So he depicts that here in the painting. So you see the gentleman there on the left with the white sash around him. He is a printer. Let me try to get out of this. Try to get out of this wind a little bit. Hopefully, I don't lose my precious painting. But he painted the printer there, and he's there because they were the first ones that stood up. And then just next to him, you have the very bourgeois guy there with his hat. And so this is also showing that it's a little bit of, it's everybody getting in on this. Oh my gosh, so windy. Maybe I could go over here. My precious painting's getting bent. My precious thing that cost €2. I already bent it trying to get it home the other day from the museum. We'll come over here. And you can also see some of the amazing sculptures on here. Look at this. What happened to the lamp post? The lamp is gone. Look at that. So then you have in here, you have a soldier down in this corner. And then you have another, this kind of cuts it off. There's a tiny bit more to the edge when you see it in the Louvre. There's another soldier that's here. These guys are clearly dead. And then they have this gentleman here that is just, a homeless person. And this is really shocking when they saw it, because people said this is gross because the woman has hairy armpits, and they said she had dirty feet, and that man was showing pubic hair. So people were quite offended by this. This is 1831. This is before Manet comes out with Olympia and then really knocked it home. But he did a little homage to his friend Jericho, because when you look at Raft of the Medusa, you see these men that, are floating out to sea, and they, some of them have died, but some of them are wearing socks. And it was because Jericho had a really hard time painting feet. So what he did is he painted them so they looked like they're wearing socks, or more, it was kind of like straps wrapped around. And so Delacroix did a little homage to his friend by adding blue socks onto this gentleman. But then you see the guy here looking up to her, and He's kind of, he's there dressed. You see the blue blanc or rouge, and then he's got the little red scarf on his head, where she is wearing also the very classic French little hat there. That is also the very odd logo of the Olympics next year. But he was forced to repaint this. So he was forced to repaint her hat and paint it that darker color. It originally was the color of the red in the flag. And then down here, you have the little guy that's also kind of an emblem of the future. He's going to be, he's taking up arms. He also has, an ammunition bag he probably stole off of one of these guys over here. And he's picking up guns because that's also the future. And then, of course, we have Notre Dame. And up at the very, very top here, very tiny little French flag. And the reason the French flag is significant in this one is because when the revolution, the big revolution, the 18th century happened, is when they added the tricolor flag. And the tricolor flag, when the Bonapartes came back into power, or not the Bonapartes, sorry, the Bourbons, with Louis the 18th, they went back to the Bourbon flag, which is a white flag. And so with this one, the people are like, yeah, no more of that. We're bringing back our flag. And so the tricolor flag is made up, and there's a few different versions of it, but I go with the version that is the white is of the Bourbons, and the blue and the red is of Paris. So there's a few different versions out there depending on what you want to believe, but that is the most consistent with historians. So that's the one I go with. But then right here, where my finger is the signature of the man himself, Delacroix, 1830. And so you see in the background, you can see all of the people, bringing up arms, getting ready to go out and fight as well. But she's kind of rising up and saying, "Come with me, follow me. We're off." And this is also this painting also inspired Mr. Bartoli, who created the Statue of Liberty, and that is kind of the same pose as the Statue of Liberty. At least she has her right arm up, holding the torch. But she was right here. So this happened right here at this very time a few days ago, which is pretty amazing. And it's in the Louvre, but sadly, it's not going to be there for very long because they are going to, it is next on the list of the large format Delacroix to be cleaned up. So it is going and restored. It is going to, we're waiting for another one that's supposed to be coming back any day now. I'm hoping this Tuesday they bring it back. And that comes back. And then the next one to go is going to be this one. And I'm going to be very sad because when it goes, it's gone for like a year and a half. And so I guess I'll just carry this with me when I do tours, and I'll just take this out and show it to people. Maybe I'll go get another one and put it in some sort of a frame. I could just carry around a frame with me. But she is on my watch. She's always with me. So, but it is pretty cool that, he decided to take that up at that moment. The big difference at that time with Romanticism as opposed to Neoclassicism, which was the school that came before, that was a period of time when there was history painting, but for the most part, it's very old history. So it's scenes from Rome and Greece and very old histories. It was just with Napoleon Bonaparte that they started doing kind of more current because he used painters like Jacques Louis David and Gros to do these paintings, and he used as his propaganda. So he was trying to change the stories that were getting out and the things of them, him going into Jaffa and saying poison everybody, and then he had Gros go and repaint the scene saying that's not what happened exactly. And so they didn't, that's what's when that really started. And so the fact that Jericho painted the Raft of the Medusa, and he did that shortly after the survivors came back, and then Delacroix painted this just a few months later. um, I don't know, Sharon. I don't know. I have my insider secrets, and it's not out there anywhere that is going to be restored. But I know from my little insider that it is. But normally, when they bring one painting back, they take another one down. But I think that because of it's summer, I bet they will leave it there and I bet in the fall it goes away. So we'll have to see. I'll see what else I can find out, but the when it comes to dates and stuff, it's really a very fluid situation when it comes to anything in Paris. They said that this one of the other one that's being restored was supposed to come back in July, and it's not back, and it won't be back until a Tuesday. So, even though technically Wednesday's August 2nd, but I'd be surprised if it's even back, because now they're all going to all go on vacation. So it probably will be a while. Um, so anything, if they say they're working on something, it's going to be restored and it's going to be open in a year. It means 2 years to 3 years here. So who knows? Maybe they won't even take it down for a while. But it is next on the list, and I would be surprised if they don't announce that in advance, just because it is one of the major paintings in the collection that everybody comes and sees. And I did a little video the other day. Sorry, I'm trying to put this back in my bag. I did a little video in there the other day before it was swarmed with people, kind of pointing it out and showing a bunch of things on it. But it was a huge turning point in art by the fact that they started to now do, immediate, uh, these immediate history happenings. And today, now when I have tours, and it's, sometimes it's teenagers and kids. It's, I kind of equate it to them as it being, this is like the Instagram. So, these things, like when, with the story of Napoleon going to Jaffa and saying poison everybody, it took about 6 months for that news to get up to France and to Paris. And then when it did, he just went and said to Grow, I need you to do this painting, to help dispel all of that. And then that painting took a year and a half. So, nowadays, if something like that happens, we know immediately, and we have photos or videos, or who knows what else we have about it, and who knows what will even be real anymore with everything happening with AI. But it was a very different time. Maybe it was a little bit better. I mean, we don't need all that access. Oh, look at you guys. So there, see the scaffolding going up higher? So those pieces in the middle, the very tallest pieces of the scaffolding. So that center part there, that is where the spire is. Let me try to zoom in. I know if my mom's watching, she's going to want to see that. Wait, let's see. Go down a little. Um, and so it looks like they're probably going to start dropping in those other pieces. So the big pieces, this is all being created and assembled. And I just shared a video a week or so ago, of the test run of them dropping in the top that was done at the factory that's creating all of this, and this is all being hand honed. So they're basically, some of it they're putting through machines, but they have to finish everything by hand. So with axes and everything that they're doing. And so the first pieces at the bottom really goes very far down into the roof, because the spire itself, and then it's going to be covered with lead, is insanely heavy. It takes 1,000 trees just to build that spire. If you remember when we did the thing back in April, the video back in April. But it's 1,000 trees that are used to create the spire. And so once you start getting up there and it gets a smaller part, that's already all going to be done. And then they're just going to drop it in like an upside down ice cream cone and attach it to there. So that's going to be really exciting. So we'll see when I get done, I'll stay here and take a pictures, because I just kind of want to track it as it gets up there. It goes higher and higher. So exciting. So very cool. So yeah, so the next couple months, it's going to be changing a lot. The whole thing right now is practically encased in scaffolding, but that's good because it means a lot's going on. But you can see it right there. Oh yeah, that's really, yeah. It is kind of it's still really sad it's really sad and hard to see. But now that we're on the downward slope, um, and getting closer to it being opened, so just a little bit over a year now. So 15 months coming up here in a week or so for it to open, and then we'll be back inside. But when you do come, make sure that you go over to the Architecture Museum. And even if you had come before, it's constantly evolving. They're adding more and more to it and changing things as the project continues and evolves. And then underneath it, not at the crypt, there is a spot that used to be a parking lot, and they've changed that over. There is the virtual reality that you could do and go in there and do the little thing about Notre Dame. But there's also another part that some of it overlaps what you have at the Architectural Museum, but it goes really in depth into the project, the different craftspeople, everything in it, and it's really, really, really cool. I should go in there and just try to make a video because I don't think there's any signal, or I would take you guys in there. But don't miss going and seeing that. The one that's at the Architecture Museum is right now slated to close in April. So we will see how long, when that will actually close, because at some point, I'm sure much sooner than December, those our little saints and apostles are going to have to get back up onto their perch up at the roof. And probably by that time next summer, they will be doing that. So that's going to be so exciting. But definitely, if you go, definitely go check it out, because you will never get a chance again to see those statues that close ever again. So make sure you go check it out. But I am going to leave it here, and I am going to head back out. And so thank you guys. Is there a guide to the? No, there's not. There's a kind of a sort of a magazine that they have that they put out, I think twice a year, and I think right now it's the fifth edition. When you come, you could, I don't think you could order it, but when you come you could find them in some newsstands and bookstores. That's where those are really, really great. The information in there is amazing. I could see if I could find if they are available anywhere and let you guys know, but they're really cool. I think I didn't pack mine up. I think I packed it to save, but I didn't ship them over. So of course I went and bought them all over again. But they're fantastic. They go into a huge detail about, the timber and just all the stories of the craftspeople and everything they're doing. It's really, really cool. But you can follow the restoration of Notre Dame on Facebook. They have a page on Facebook. It's all in French, but they share some really, really fantastic information. So, oh, you too, Sharon. I look forward to it. I can't wait. September and October are going to be quite busy, but I'm looking forward to it. It'll be good to see everybody. And I'll see. I'll try to turn around and say hi for a second if I'm not too windblown. But thank you guys so much for joining again today. And I will see you next week. And next week, we're going to be at my favorite place right over around Notre Dame. And because it's her big birthday, it's her 230th birthday. Oh, thank you, Angela. So I'm excited to share that with you guys. And then I'm going to have one that's also another one on a Sunday in August. It's going to be very special because it's going to be dedicated to my grandpa on what would have been his birthday. So we're going to go to a bunch of fun places with his photos that he did. So, oh, hey, Byron. Hi, Byron and Juan. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much. And I will sign off, and make sure you listen to the new podcast episode tomorrow. It's going to be more about this a little bit. Some more. I have a whole hour with you guys, though, but I only have 30 minutes on the podcast. So thank you guys so much. And I will